Picture the absolute chaos of a sold-out stadium in Los Angeles. The air vibrating with the roar of 50,000 fans, and the glowing purple ocean stretching as far as the eye can see. This isn't just a concert. It's a global phenomenon, a cultural shift that has redefined what it means to be a superstar in the 21st century. But have you ever wondered what goes on behind those heavy black curtains before the lights go up? While most legends are known for diva-like demands, BTS operates on a completely different frequency. They brought a set of ironclad rules to their U.S. tours that left even the most powerful American sponsors and venue owners scratching their heads in disbelief. We are talking about non-negotiable mandates that prioritize health, heritage, and a level of respect that money simply cannot buy. Why did billion-dollar corporations have to pivot their entire marketing strategy just to stay in the room? What were the secret deal breakers that kept the members safe and their message pure? Today, we're peeling back the glittery layers of the stage to reveal the intense discipline and the unexpected boundaries set by the 7 icons. Are you ready to discover the power dynamic that changed the touring industry forever? Get comfortable, because we are about to dive into the 7 rules BTS enforced on their US tour that no sponsor, no matter how rich, could ever break. Number 7. The sacred recovery. No after-party clause. When you think of a massive US stadium tour, your mind probably wanders to the classic rockstar trope of champagne-soaked after-parties, high-profile club appearances, and the kind of late-night networking that leaves even the most seasoned veterans completely exhausted. But when BTS landed on American soil, they flipped that script entirely, leaving powerful sponsors and venue owners in absolute shock with a rule that was as ironclad as it was unexpected. For the youngest member, Jungkook, who is often hailed as the Golden Maknae for his relentless pursuit of flawless performances, this wasn't just a professional rule, it was a survival mechanism for his art and a testament to his discipline. You see, the American music industry fully expected BTS to play the traditional game. They wanted the group to show up at elite parties hosted by billionaires and record label executives to rub elbows and solidify their status in the Hollywood social hierarchy. However, the rule enforced was immovable. The backstage area was a strictly dry zone, and any invitations to post-concert clubs or high-octane social gatherings were met with a polite but firm decline. Imagine the scene at a venue like the Rose Bowl or MetLife Stadium. While sponsors were ready to pop $1,000 bottles of bubbly to celebrate a sold-out night, the members were already in their vans, heading back to a quiet hotel room to eat simple Korean comfort food and recover. This rule was deeply rooted in the philosophy that their bodies were their instruments, and any compromise in their physical health or mental clarity was a direct betrayal to the army who had waited years and spent their hard-earned money to see them. This wasn't about being too good for the party. It was a reflective, almost spiritual choice by Jungkook and the team to prioritize the quality of the next show over a few hours of superficial networking. The discipline was so intense that even the most influential sponsors were told that their luxury lounges had to be cleared of alcohol if the members were even passing through. It forced the American music industry to realize that BTS wasn't there to be idols in the traditional party-loving sense. They were elite athletes of the stage. Jungkook's personal commitment to this rule meant that while other stars might be nursing hangovers the next morning, he was often in the hotel gym or practicing his vocals at 2 a.m., ensuring that the next city got a performance even more electric than the last. This level of grit and the refusal to cave into the Hollywood lifestyle set a new standard for touring in the West that many artists still struggle to emulate. It makes you wonder how much of their global success is built on these hidden sacrifices that happen when the cameras are finally off. If they were this protective of their physical state, what do you think they demanded when it came to the actual air they breathed inside those massive American arenas? Number 6. The Culinary Iron Curtain, authentic roots only. Imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of trying to maintain a traditional Korean kitchen in the heart of the American Midwest or the bustling cities of the East Coast, where every major food sponsor is practically begging to have their products in the hands of the world's most influential artists. This brings us to a rule that left massive American catering sponsors and venue managers in a state of total disbelief. The absolute, non-negotiable requirement for a 24/7 authentic Korean kitchen, independent of any existing venue contracts or corporate partnerships. Let's focus on V, also known as Kim Taehyung, an artist whose soul is deeply intertwined with his cultural roots and the emotional comfort of his heritage. For V, food has never been just about nutrition. It's a profound psychological anchor that keeps him sane amidst the whirlwind of a global tour. While most Western stars are content with the standard high-end tour catering steaks, salads, or the occasional fast food run BTS, enforced a rule that their backstage area must remain a sanctuary of authentic Korean flavor. Major American food chains were ready to pay astronomical sums to have their logos featured in the behind-the-scenes footage or to provide the meals for the crew, but the answer was always a resounding no when it came to the members' personal dining. V is known for his specific palate and his love for traditional dishes like nurungji, scorched rice, or a perfectly seasoned bowl of soup, and the team ensured that these were always available regardless of the time or location. Think about the intensity of that demand. Sponsors had to stand aside as the group flew in their own specialized chefs and sourced specific ingredients that were often hard to find in certain U.S. states, just to ensure the authenticity wasn't compromised. This wasn't a case of diva behavior. It was a reflective and strategic move to combat the intense homesickness and sensory overload that comes with performing in front of millions of people in a foreign land. By maintaining this culinary iron curtain, V and the group ensured that their identity remained unshielded and un-Americanized. It was a silent but powerful statement to the sponsors. You can buy our time, but you cannot buy our culture. This rule forced legendary venues like the Staples Center or Soldier Field to rewrite their rulebooks, allowing outside catering teams to take over their high-security kitchens, a feat almost no other artist has achieved. V's insistence on this connection to home through food allowed him to step onto those massive stages feeling grounded, carrying the scent of his home country with him into the roar of the American crowd. It's a fascinating glimpse into how they protect their mental health by refusing to let the corporate machine dictate even their most basic needs. It makes you wonder, if they were this strict about what went into their bodies, how far did they go to protect the very image they projected to the world? Number 5. The visual sovereignty. The no gimmick filter. In the high-stakes world of American entertainment, your face isn't just a face, it's the most expensive real estate on the planet. And for a global powerhouse like BTS, every second of their candid life is worth millions to the right buyer. This brings us to a rule that completely paralyzed American marketing executives and tech giants who were desperate to get their products into the group's peripheral vision. the absolute ban on sponsor-mandated product placement in any non-commercial content. Let's look at this through the lens of Jimin, a man whose every move is a masterclass in grace, and whose visual aesthetic is guarded with the ferocity of a high art gallery. In the US, it is standard practice for sponsors to gift celebrities everything from the latest smartphones to luxury watches, with the silent expectation that these items will accidentally appear in a social media post or a behind-the-scenes documentary. But for Jimin and the team, the rule was clear. The connection between the artist and the army is a sacred, commercial-free zone that no amount of corporate money could penetrate. Imagine the frustration of a billion-dollar electronic sponsor watching Jimin go live from a hotel room in Chicago or New York, only to realize he had taped over every single brand logo on his equipment, or was using a generic cup instead of their branded one. This wasn't just a legal technicality, it was a deeply reflective choice by Jimin to ensure that when fans look at him, they are seeing a human being, not a walking billboard. He understood that the moment a sponsored item felt forced into his personal space, the authenticity of his message, the message of loving yourself, would be instantly diluted by the stench of corporate greed. Sponsors would offer astronomical sums just to have a specific soda bottle sitting on a table during a rehearsal video, but the rule remained unbroken. If it wasn't something they actually used or believed in, it stayed out of the frame. This created an incredible atmosphere of trust. When you see Jimin wearing a simple shirt or using a specific lip balm in a raw, emotional vlog from the tour bus, you know it's because he actually likes it, not because a contract told him to. This visual sovereignty forced American sponsors to completely rethink how they approached the group, moving away from cheap influencer tactics to more meaningful, large-scale collaborations that respected the group's artistic boundaries. Jimin's discipline in this area is legendary. He has been known to stop a recording or move an object if he felt it looked too much like a forced ad, prioritizing the aesthetic and emotional integrity of the content over a quick corporate payout. It's a level of control that most Western artists, who are often beholden to their sponsors for tour funding, simply do not have the power to exercise. This rule preserved the purple bubble of the BTS world, keeping the focus on the music and the soul of the performer rather than the logos on their gear. It's a fascinating power play that reminds us that in the world of BTS, the fans are the only sponsors that truly matter. But if they were this protective of their visual image, what kind of extreme measures did they take when it came to their physical safety in the unpredictable streets of America? Number 4. The Ironclad Privacy Shield, the No Access Sanctuary. In the high-octane environment of American entertainment, access is the most expensive commodity a brand can buy. And when a global powerhouse like BTS hits the road, every major sponsor feels entitled to a piece of their private time. But this brings us to a rule that completely dismantled the traditional VIP culture of the U.S. music industry, the absolute and non-negotiable sanctuary status of the group's private quarters. Let's focus on the group's eldest member, Jin, a man who carries the title of worldwide handsome with a playful wink but guards his internal peace with the discipline of a soldier. In the Western touring circuit, it is standard practice, almost an unwritten law, that high-level sponsors, celebrity guests, and venue owners are granted backstage passes to enter the dressing rooms for photos, handshakes, and networking. These sponsors often pay millions for the privilege, viewing the artists as part of a high-end corporate package. However, Jin and the team enforced a rule that left these powerful executives standing in the hallway. The dressing room was a sacred space for the members alone, and no amount of corporate funding could buy an invitation inside. Imagine the tension in a massive stadium like the Rose Bowl, while a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech company expected to walk in and grab a selfie for his social media. He was met by a stone-faced security team, operating under the members' strict orders. For Jin, this wasn't about being difficult or acting like a diva. It was a deeply reflective and strategic choice to preserve the group's mental energy. He understood that to give 100% to the thousands of army waiting in the stands, he needed a place where he wasn't Jin of BTS, but simply Kim Seokjin. This rule created a blackout zone, where the cameras were off, the suits were out, and the air was filled with only the members' laughter or their silent focus. This was a direct challenge to the pay-to-play mentality of Hollywood, where stars are often treated like trophies for their backers. The sponsors were forced to realize that their money bought them a logo on a screen, but it didn't buy them a seat at Jin's table. This level of autonomy is almost unheard of in the US, where many artists feel pressured to please their sponsors to keep the tour funded. But BTS flipped the power dynamic. They proved that their dignity and their sacred preparation time were not for sale. This rule allowed Jin to maintain that legendary composure and bright energy that fans see on stage, because he had an hour of absolute, unviolated peace beforehand. It was a silent revolution in the touring world, teaching American industry giants that an artist's private life is not a commodity. By enforcing this boundary, Jin ensured that the group's bond remained untouched by the superficiality of the business side of music, keeping their purple world pure even in the middle of a chaotic American tour. It's a fascinating look at how they value the soul over the sale. But if they were this protective of their physical space, what kind of extreme demands did they make when it came to the very words and messages being broadcast during their massive US press runs? Number 3. The linguistic sovereignty, the no-script mandate. Imagine the high-pressure environment of a Good Morning America or The Tonight Show backstage area where billion-dollar sponsors are hovering with teleprompters and approved talking points, designed to make foreign stars fit into a neat, digestible American box. This leads us to one of the most intellectually fierce rules ever enforced during their US tours: the absolute rejection of external PR scripts and the total control of their linguistic narrative. This point centers on the group's leader, RM Kim Namjoon, the philosophical backbone and the linguistic bridge of the group. In the American music industry, it is standard practice for foreign artists to be handled by image consultants who scrub their answers of any cultural nuance or difficult social messages to make them more marketable to a general audience. But RM enforced a rule that was a nightmare for sponsors. BTS would never read from a script they didn't write or approve themselves, and they would never allow a third-party, sponsor-hired translator to filter their hearts. Think about the sheer guts it takes to walk into a room filled with Hollywood's most powerful executives and tell them that their optimized marketing slogans are not welcome. RM, who famously taught himself English to better communicate with the world, took on the Herculean task of being the group's shield and voice, ensuring that every interview and every sponsor interaction remained authentically Bangtan. There were times when massive brand partners tried to push specific westernized narratives, perhaps asking them to comment on fabricated rivalries, or to lean into certain pop star stereotypes, to generate clicks, but RM's rule was immovable. If the message didn't align with their love yourself philosophy or their Korean roots, it simply wasn't said. This created a fascinating and sometimes tense dynamic during their US press runs. While sponsors wanted snappy, viral soundbites, RM delivered profound, reflective insights that often left interviewers and corporate suits stunned and silent. He was effectively telling the American industry, "You can host us, but you cannot speak for us." This rule forced sponsors to hire translators who were specifically vetted by their own team to ensure that the delicate honorifics and deep cultural meanings of their Korean responses weren't lost in translation. The emotional weight of this was immense. RM spent his limited rest time between stadium shows studying American social issues and nuances not to fit in, but to ensure he could defend his members' intent with precision and grace. This linguistic sovereignty meant that even in the middle of a heavily commercialized US tour, the group's Korean identity remained the dominant force. Sponsors had to adapt to BTS's frequency, not the other way around. It was a masterclass in intellectual self-defense that proved to the world that you don't have to change your voice or your language to be heard by the masses. RM's refusal to be a corporate puppet ensured that the army received the truth, not a pre-packaged PR version of it. It makes you realize that their power isn't just in their dance moves, but in the boundaries they set for their minds. But if RM was guarding their words with such intensity, who was responsible for the explosive energy and the uncompromising standard of their physical performance when the lights finally dimmed? Number 2. The unyielding sonic standard. The no-compromise audio rule. When a global superstar brings a show to a massive American stadium, there is an army of sponsors and technical partners waiting in the wings, often pushing for specific equipment brands or cost-effective audio solutions that favor the venue's existing sponsors. But this leads us to a rule that sent shockwaves through the technical crews of every major US arena. The absolute non-negotiable requirement for a specific high-fidelity audio environment that no sponsor could alter for their own promotional gain. This point focuses on Suga, or Min Yoongi, the group's resident production genius, and a man who lives and breathes the physics of sound. For Suga, a concert isn't just a visual spectacle. It is a sonic experience that must be perfect down to the last decibel. And he enforced a no-compromise rule on the tour's audio architecture that left venue owners reeling. In the American touring industry, venues often have exclusive deals with audio manufacturers, meaning if a sponsor, like a major headphone or speaker brand, wants their gear used for the performance, the artist usually has to comply. But Suga and the team walked into these legendary stadiums and essentially told the sponsors that their equipment wasn't up to par. Imagine the audacity. Suga demanded that the entire audio rig be custom-tuned to his specific standards, often requiring the team to fly in specialized equipment from overseas rather than using the sponsor-provided gear already in the stadium. This wasn't about being picky. It was a deeply emotional and professional commitment to the army. Suga knew that many fans had traveled across continents and spent their savings to hear his lyrics and his production, and he refused to let a corporate contract muffle the clarity of his message. There are stories from the US tour where sound checks lasted hours longer than scheduled because Suga could hear a frequency ghost that no one else noticed, and he wouldn't let the doors open until it was fixed. Sponsors who wanted to display their latest audio tech were told to keep it in the lobby. If it wasn't the absolute best for the live performance, it didn't touch the stage. This rule forced American audio engineers to work at a level of precision they rarely encountered, creating a reflective atmosphere of mutual respect, but also immense pressure. Suga's background as a producer meant he understood exactly how a stadium's acoustics could destroy the emotional impact of a song like First Love or Interlude, Shadow, and he was willing to fight any sponsor to protect that connection. By enforcing this sonic sovereignty, he ensured that the BTS sound remained consistent, whether they were playing in a small studio in Seoul or a 90,000-seat stadium in Pasadena. It was a silent battle of wills where the artist's ear won over the sponsor's wallet, proving that for BTS, the music is the only thing that is truly sacred. This technical discipline is the reason why their live shows feel so visceral and immersive, because Suga wouldn't let a single corporate logo stand in the way of a perfect sound wave. It leaves you wondering, if they were this obsessive about the sound, what kind of extreme measures did they take to ensure the choreography stayed as sharp as a razor, regardless of the physical toll it took? Number 1. The absolute performance integrity. The Army First Mandate. We have finally reached the pinnacle, the one rule that stands above all others, and it belongs to the man who is the very heartbeat and the performance director of the group's soul, J-Hope. Known for his sun-like energy, but also his terrifyingly precise discipline, J-Hope enforced a rule so radical it practically redefined the architecture of American stadium shows, the absolute visual and kinetic integrity of the concert. In the high-stakes world of U.S. sponsorships, brands paid tens of millions to have their logos plastered across the stage, on the LED screens, or even on the very floor the artists dance on. They often demand commercial breaks or sponsored fan engagement segments that serve their brand but disrupt the flow of the show. But J-Hope and the team laid down a rule that no sponsor, no matter how many billions they offered, could ever break. The Army's view is sacred and non-negotiable. This meant that if a sponsor's massive luxury booth or a promotional camera rig blocked even a single fan in the nosebleed sections from seeing the full choreography, that rig was moved or dismantled immediately. J-Hope is a perfectionist who views a 3-hour concert as a single, breathing work of art, and he refused to let corporate clutter break the immersion. Imagine the sheer audacity of telling a global tech giant or a massive beverage sponsor that their multi-million-dollar experience zone had to be relocated or shrunk because it cast a shadow on a specific dance formation during Black Swan. This rule was deeply reflective of J-Hope's personal philosophy, that every fan, regardless of whether they were in the front row or the very last seat of the highest tier, deserved the exact same level of energy and visual clarity. During the U.S. tours, J-Hope would often walk the entire perimeter of the stadium during rehearsals, not just the stage, but the actual stands, to see exactly what the fans would see. If he found that a sponsor's banner or a VIP platform obstructed the view of the 7 members dancing in unison, he would demand an immediate change. This forced American promoters to completely redesign their traditional VIP floor plans, prioritizing the fan sight lines over corporate sight lines. The emotional weight of this is staggering. J-Hope wasn't just defending a dance routine, he was defending the emotional connection between BTS and the Army. He understood that for many, this concert was a once-in-a-lifetime healing experience, and he wouldn't allow a corporate logo to be the thing a fan remembered. This rule created an atmosphere where the stage was a pure, white-hot space of artistic expression, completely unburdened by the traditional, sponsored feel of Western pop tours. J-Hope's uncompromising standard meant that the group would perform their most grueling choreography at 100% intensity, even if a sponsor wanted them to take it easy for a commercial-friendly interview, mid-set. This performance integrity is why a BTS concert feels like a religious experience rather than a product launch. It is the ultimate testament to their love for the fans, a rule that says, "In this stadium, the only royalty is the army, and the only mission is the music." By placing the fan experience above corporate profit, J-Hope and BTS didn't just break the rules of the US tour industry. They built a new world where sincerity is the highest currency. It's the ultimate reason why their legacy remains untouchable and their bond with the world remains unbreakable.